This is our 32 session. I bring up Rachit and Deepak to this group, and they are on video. Satya is also there. He's just came from Rakhi festival. We all celebrated, but yeah, yes. Okay, so wonderful day today. Was a little bit cloudy in Sydney. Now we are moving ahead with the slide. This session is about the Dynamics implementation, Dynamics Finance and Operation implementation with respect to your Azure DevOps. So basically, how you can deploy your code with the help of Azure DevOps, how you can automate it. There will be GitHub, Git pipeline setups, and all those things will be discussed with Deepak and Rachit. So let me bring you about the group introduction. This group we started around 2.5 years back, and we have been loved by all over the world. We get a lot of requests, a lot of questioning we have normally in the group. A lot of interactions happen. We have now crossed around 4,500 LinkedIn members as well as followers in our group. And we have our YouTube channel wherein we have already being recording the sessions and posting it for all of you, all of your views. Recommended is to please join them and do subscribe so that you can get the best out of it. Today's session is more towards the. Okay, I think we have to welcome our friend Deepak Agarwal. He's joining in from UK. He will be also volunteering this group starting today. To pump up our reach in UK as well, since we are already across the world, and the UK reach was a little bit limited, I would say, but now he's being pumping up our sessions into UK as well. Okay, so this is our group introduction. Since we have already added Deepak Agarwal here already, Rachit is already leading the sessions, backed up by Satya Kejriwal and Umesh Pandit. This is our social handles, LinkedIn, Twitter, and the YouTube channel. You can scan them and you can follow, like, and comment. This is our group logos. We have already, this is something backdated, but we will update it soon. Okay, so past sessions are already in the link, and this is our group. This is our website as well. Website is not well developed till now. We are looking for developers. If you can refer someone, or if you are a developer, those who can set up our website, definitely it is welcomed for everyone, those who can contribute. Today's session is more focused on our Azure DevOps pipeline setup and Git introduction to the finance and operation. Without any delay, I will just give this particular opportunity to our Rachit sir and Deepak Agarwal. Thank you.
Thank you, Umesh, for the humble introduction, and welcome Deepak to the group. Before we move on with the session, I would like to wish everyone a very happy Raksha Bandhan. This is a festival we are celebrating in India today. It's to celebrate the bond of brother and sister love. So everyone who is celebrating, best wishes from our side. So yeah, let's kick off with the session. So Deepak, will you please share your screen and then we'll do our introduction? Yeah.
Sure. I'm also excited to see the number of people attending session today. I think it's one of the most favorite session, looks like.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. We really need this support. Yeah. Cool.
So is my screen visible now?
Yeah, yes. Your screen is visible. If you can move on to the next one, please. Cool. So welcome everyone. Today what we are going to discuss is what is DevOps and what is Azure DevOps. What are its various components which are used in various phases of an implementation of Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. So throughout the project journey, how we use DevOps and how every persona of your implementation team touches this particular platform. So it is a really a valuable platform which needs to be taken care of during the whole journey. Then we will do a bit of a deep dive into the Azure area. and pipelines and how you manage releases and a bit of automation. Yeah, let's move on. So quick introduction about the speaker. So myself, Rachit, based in Australia. I'm currently working with Valrada and based in Melbourne. I received Microsoft MVP award first time this year, 2023. So really excited to be a part of the MVP crew. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer and a Microsoft certified solution architect in finance and operations. My background is technical. I've been working as an X++ developer since year 2005. I love X++ and the capabilities of this language is like really. I never say no to any customer. I have been solving every complex problem with this language. So yeah, a bit of an X++ nerd, but happy to be here and share this stage with Deepak. I'll hand it over to Deepak to introduce himself and take us forward in this journey. Over to you, Deepak.
Yeah, thanks, Ajay. Thanks, Sumesh, for setting up the platform for me. So, hi everyone. Myself, Deepak Agrawal, and being working in the Dynamics universe for about 13 years now, and actively part of MVP community since 2013. And recently, I completed my 10th anniversary with MVP program. So yeah, I'm excited to start this session. So let's quickly jump into our agenda first. So first, in the first topic of this session, we are going to talk about what is DevOps and Azure DevOps. Yes, both are a bit of different. Azure DevOps and DevOps are related concept, but refer as slightly different things. When we talk about DevOps is set of practice and cultural philosophies that aims to provide an effective collaboration between development and operation team. It promote continuous integration and continuous delivery, which also known as CI/CD. When I'm talking about Azure DevOps, on top of DevOps, when we have set of tools from Microsoft like Azure Test Plans, Azure Pipelines, Artifacts, Azure Boards, and Repositories. So those set of tools provides those tools provide to use DevOps more effectively and help teams to plan, develop, test, and deliver your application properly. It's a comprehensive suite tools that covers various aspects of a DevOps lifecycle. And if I'll say in summary, DevOps is a methodology, while Azure DevOps is a set of specific tools and services provided by Microsoft. So yeah, next time when we say whether it's DevOps or Azure DevOps, so I believe now you know both are different things. And in general terms, we normally still call it DevOps while using Azure DevOps. Okay, the next topic for the session is to understand what are when we are talking about Azure DevOps tools, what are those tools and components? So primarily there are 5 major tools available out of the box with Azure DevOps, which is Azure Boards, Azure Repositories, Azure Pipelines, Azure Artifacts, and Test Plan. One interesting thing for those tools are you will get a couple of free license which is applicable on Azure Boards, Repositories, Pipelines, and Artifact, but Azure Test Plan needs a separate dedicated license. Now let's see all the tools one by one. First, we are looking at the screen for Azure Boards. So Azure Board is the main target audience for Azure Board could be project manager, scrum masters, and the project stakeholders. Boards specifically focus on the work tracking and the project management aspect of SDLC, software development lifecycle, by providing a visualizing representation of work and their different status. The dashboard within boards is Kanban boards, which visualize work items, and you can literally move the cards from, if you see the screen here, those are different columns, different stages of each item. You can literally move from one status to another status. I will also cover this part while we were going through demos. And in the left-hand side on the screenshot, you see there are a couple of items, a couple of further tools available on the boards. I'll cover them in the demo. Going next, Azure Repositories. The main persona of the project for repositories are technical architects, solution architects, and release managers, and individual developers as well. So what is Azure Repositories? As its name says, it's a repository for your code where you do your code versioning. Within this Azure Repositories, you can perform more effective code reviews with threaded discussion and continuous integration for each change. If you are using Git repositories, that's a bit of spoiler for Rachit's session. But if you are using Git, then you use all the Git functionality, which is very highly used for other software developments. Azure repository also helps to to set up your CI/CD to automatically trigger builds, test, and deployment with every completed pull request. Within this tool, you also define your branch policies, something like, if you want to mandate to attach a DevOps item, which is nothing but part of your board work item. So whenever a developer is going to check in their code, a related work item should be attached. I will walk you through in the demo as well for that part. So that is also can be defined on the branch policies. Azure Pipeline. Azure Pipeline will broadly covered by the next half, where Rachit will walk you through in more details. But still, let's see what are the main components, main use of Azure Pipelines. So Azure Pipelines used for cloud hosted, and it's literally a platform independent. So you can use any OS, whether it's Linux, Mac OS, and of course Windows OS. And I know this session is specifically around Microsoft Dynamics 365, but it's good to know those pipelines work equally effectively with any coding language, any platform, or any cloud, whether it's private cloud, hybrid, or on-prem. Next, artifacts. So the main project persona for Azure artifacts are majorly solution architects. This is a component of DevOps service that focus on package management. It provides a platform to managing and sharing the different type of packages used in your software development. It can be NuGet package for .NET, it can be NPM package, even Maven package for Java. This allows team to create, publish, and consume packages, making it easier to manage dependencies and share reusable components throughout the projects and different teams. Test plans. This is always an interesting topic in project where teams spend a lot of time to do testing if they are not using this manually. But this test plan help. I mean, first, okay, let's understand who's the personas for this test. So persona could be test managers and individual testers. And the focus of testing and quality assurance aspect of the software development lifecycle. It also provides tools for planning, managing, execution your test, and well tracking test results with any further issues raised during the testings. Test plans are designed to help teams to ensure quality and reliability of their software. And this also supports whether you are doing manual testing, you can design automation around there. If you heard of the RSET tools, that can be integrated using test plan here. Okay, the next part where I'm going to walk you through a project journey. Okay, before going to understand project journey, I have a quick question for everyone. Okay, and please hear me carefully. Out of all audience here, how many you feel like you need Modi ji to manage your projects now? Can you raise your hands, please? if you feel you need Modi to manage your projects now. Okay, 7 people thinks. Okay, some people are raising and downing their hand again. That's interesting. Okay, I'll take a ballpark figure 10. Okay, I see people are raising their hand and lowering again, so I'll take a ballpark figure of 10. Great. So, okay, so you need a Modi to manage your project well. Mode Easy is already there. Okay, Azure DevOps is Mode Easy. I hope you heard Mode Easy, nothing else. Okay, so nowadays we need a tool which is not easily available, but it should be easily manageable. Even not only manageable, it should be scalable when it's needed, right? So you know now what's more easy for your project when next time you look at your project management. So just try those components. Okay, so these are the main areas where I'm going to walk you through as a project journey. So uh, let's understand this. So DevOps, Azure DevOps as a whole is a big tool, right? And I have seen many examples where companies or partners have a dedicated team to manage all of those tools. Now, the idea for this session and the first half of the demo where I'm going to present is just to showcase what are the main components which can be used easily without any extra efforts. And that is going to be a lot help in your projects. So we'll start with how to set up an organization, how to create a project with an organization, and couple of properties around the project creation. Then we'll see how to configure your projects, where we'll define sprints, how to set up backlogs, capacity planning, and how you could design your dashboards. And I'll also explain how you will see how you can set up your branches and how to define policies. Uh, Good to know about test suite. As it needs a separate tool, we have limited setup around there. Pipeline, Rachit will cover in depth with the pipelines. So, okay, this is just a screenshot, whenever you're going to create a new organization. Okay, so you will get those two properties to fill. First, choose your organization name. Mostly it's a group name or company name, something like Conso, and you will host a reason, choose a region where you host your organization. Now I'll share. I'll stop my screen sharing for a moment and I'll jump to demo. Is my screen still visible? Okay,
Yep.
great. Great. So first, let's understand what are the part for organization setup. So whenever you are going to do first time whenever you are going to set up your Azure DevOps first time, you need to create an organization. If there is an organization already exist for your domain, you will see that you can also create new organizations. So in org setting, you will see a couple of areas. So first, of course, overview and summary of your projects. You can also change the owner in case someone taking over that specific set of projects. Here you will see a list of projects, of course, and the users available within this organization. So now there's a common question comes in the picture of what access level I need to manage. Okay, so by default, there are 3 type of access available: basic, stakeholder, and basic still and the Visual Studio subscriber. Those are three licenses are available. So basic in my understanding, basic is the topmost. So you get 5 basic license free with each Visual Studio project, and you can use them. While stakeholder is a default role which is assigned whenever a new user will be joining this project. In the left, you see billing section where you will see what are the default license and the free quota you received that is used for pipeline running and so on. In I believe I talk about extension as well in one of the slide. So this extensions will help you to use a lot of more tools which you can integrate in your DevOps. One tool I would recommend to use, Retro Perspective. This is very good tool. I use this a lot. That helped me to understand what my team thinks about each sprint. We have open feedback and ideas how to improve next sprint and so on. Here you will also get sorry, in the right top you can also get personal access tokens which help you to integrate your DevOps with different applications. If I'll talk about FNO Perspective, this is used when you connect your DevOps with the LCS. Now you may ask why we need to connect our LCS with the DevOps. Park discussion, I'll come to this to later. Okay, and now another common scenario which I found in different customers. So when we create a project under an organization, by default it comes as a basic process. This is nothing but the methodologies, and we sometimes forget to change it. And people later realize, okay, they are unable to see their different type of items, and they tend to delete that project and create it again. Well, it's not necessarily needed. If you go to your org setting and if you see the boards processes, it will tell you how many projects are created under each of it. So for this demo, I created one dummy project, which is type of Scrum. Let's assume I created this project new and accidentally that was by default that was basic, but I need it to be agile methodology. So I'll come to the screen, I'll select the project, and here I'll click change process, and I can change this to something else. If you see, Scrum is not coming here because some Scrum is already type of my project. Now, please note, it's only recommended to make those changes when there are no work items. There is no data at all on this project, right? If you already use this project for a while, team start putting their work items, start putting their comments, feedback within this, it's not recommended to change after that. That may break a lot of thing within your project. Okay, that was project setting. Now, let's see. I'll walk you through about this project. So when we create a new project, so this is the landing page of your project, and let's quickly see what are the project settings available for me. Now, as I said, the idea for this demo is to not to drill through each and every tool, but just to talk about what are the main features which can be used easily, right? And that's going to be a big help in your projects where you can literally avoid, tons of emails like hey Deepak, please send me status of what are the all interfaces. Let's escalate this one, blah blah. So all those things can literally be managed through DevOps. Okay, so in project setup, so here we'll come to a couple of things. Yeah, I'm referring my script in backend to make sure I'm not missing any point. So I'm under project setting. So there are two settings, team. Please be aware. So when I was here on the organization, in the bottom it was org setting, right? And if I'm in the project, in the bottom left, I'll see project settings. So if I'll click on the project setting, so first it's of course overview that will give me understanding. It's better to put a nice description here, and I'll see who are my project admin. And this tool, this part specific can be used to understand, okay, let's say I'm not using a specific service for my project. I can simply on and off them. And here, whenever you are going to, let's say I'll turn off a board for now. Okay, so it will say turn off board hides. Okay, mark this word. It says hides. It doesn't says delete. So that means even if you turn that off for some reason, you can come back here and turn that on. Your data will be there. Teams, we can park teams, and let's go to project configuration for now. So here, this is the area where you define your sprints. I hope everyone is aware about sprint. It's more a project management term, so where you define a certain time for each sprint and decide set of tasks to be delivered within sprint. So here you will be able to create sprints for this projects, and it's very interactive. I mean, every tools are very interactive, well intelligent tools. So let's say here we are saying roughly how many 21 days of sprint here, right? And if I'll create a new child, let's say, okay, and I'll call it sprint 8, and okay, if you see the sprint 7 is ending on 5th of January 24. So next date it will automatically come to 6th. Now you may ask why 6th, why not 6th, why 8th, why not 6th? Because 6th and 7 are weekends. I can also define that, like what are my working days of this project. So I'll select this one, and as soon as I select start date, end date automatically calculates on 20 days or whatever duration I'm taking for each sprint. And that's how it's created sprint date. Another part within this project configuration are areas where I define the different areas of the project. The areas could be something like where you categorized your items, work items. It could be like data migrations, interfaces, or maybe customization, something like that. So those can be defined. I'll tell you where we used areas later. Okay, what next? Okay, so here repositories, I'll come later. Well, first let me talk about boards here. So boards further deal with a lot of small tools, small but very useful. It reminds me a tagline from Shaktiman, "Choti choti magar moti baatein." So yeah, it's a very useful tool, small tools but very useful your project. So work item, where you will see all the work items within the project, and you will get tons of different filters you can define based on the type of it. Slowly will recognize each type having a different icon, so you don't need, you as soon as you see them here you understand, okay, this is my feature, this is my task, this is bug, and this is my epic, and all of them are interlinked. So on the top level it comes as epic, and then feature, then user stories, and then task. That's how in an ideal world that works. You can also see who all are the team member to whom it's assigned to. Okay, and of course different states, whether it's come in progress or recently created, which comes as new, or it's completed, approved. You can use all of them. Now I talked about area in previous screen. So area on top of sprint. Okay, even before that, sorry. So whenever you're creating an item, okay, there are a couple of fields which you must define. For an example, priority. What is the priority for this one? Priority 1, 2, 3, and what are the efforts? So let's say I'll say this efforts will take 48. It's in hours always. And here you will define, okay, which iteration this is part of. I'll say it's iteration 2, and I can define areas here. Okay, so I'll say it's PUL, and that's it. Within this screen, there are a couple of more useful tools. As I said earlier, you don't need to follow up things over the emails. So simply you go here in the discussion, you type @ and let's say I need to check with Umesh, who was working on Umesh. Does it need any user testing or user training? Something like that. Okay. So every comments are tracked within the user story. We don't need to scroll tons of emails after end of a work. You can also interact with the users like, okay, so here they shared something, need 2 more fields on customer master. Okay. And let's say customer user give us just this description. So I can ask them, okay, hi, user 1, please provide more details, something like that. So it's very interactive and very useful when for your communications as well. Now, let's consider one more scenario. We have Rachit as a project manager on this project, and he may not need to look into each and every work item, but eventually there are a couple of critical items which might needs his attention. So what he can do is he is not participating in those communication, but he still needs to know what's going on this. So he can do simply follow. Okay, if I'll do follow, so whenever there is an update of this item, I will get emails notification what's happening around it. Okay, so I think that's enough on the work item. Let's go to the boards. Yes, you see when I moved to boards, it's asked me whether I want to save it or not. So it's important to note whenever you are making any changes, you click on this save button. Okay, for an example, let's say you uploaded a file, okay, and it start appearing here. But if you don't click on save button, that won't be saved on server. So it's always pay attention whether your save button is active or it's already saved. Right. Next, go on the boards. Okay, the board is also known as Kanban boards. It's very interactive. You can literally do drag and drop, create a new task, and you can have different views. Views is not enabled on this project anyways. So here what you can do is you can create new items from here, like whether it's product backlog, bug, and you create a design item for that from this screen.
Am I audible now?
Hello. I think
Yes,
someone.
Deepak, continue.
Okay, no worries. Okay. So here, let's say I want to assign this item to Umesh. So I don't need to go to the item in the detail. So I'll right click here. Sorry, I click here. I'll define Umesh. And here you can also define the estimated efforts for this. Let's say I'll say it will take 2 days. Okay. And I can also drag and drop from one to another phase. So let's say I would say this is already done. So I'll park it here. Its design is completed now. It's in development phase. And once development completed, I'll park it. It's done. So you can manage from here as well. Now, you might be seeing those couple of different colors here. So what are they? Well, you can configure these boards as per your need. Okay. What that mean is if I'll go to the setting on the right top, okay, and I'll go to the styles. So I created 2 rules here. What the tool means is I'll edit them for you. I give a name. Let's say I need to highlight all those items which are taking more than 4 days of time. Okay, and I need this to be applicable entire board, every item. Okay, and the next what I did is I'll create another rule. I name it critical bugs. And what I did is here, wherever any bug with severity is 1, that should be in the red. How this will help me is to identify any of those items within this board before going into the detail. So let's see how that works in the real. So let's assume this may take 45 hours. So as soon as I'll mark this hours 45, this turn as amber. Right. So those styling rules are very useful. Again, you can see everything within your default boards, and easy to track what's going on. Now you might seen the different different columns in project, and you can define them here. So for this test project, I want to track all the items in 4 columns. Whenever item is created anew, and the design phase, and development and test phase, and finally when it's completed or done. You can literally play around those columns. Like you can change the sequence, something like this. You can add new columns, you can rename it. It's highly customizable. Okay, so we seen this one. Next, here we have, okay, so those work items, boards, backlogs, all are interlinked. You will see all similar items, but in the different format. So first of all, we've seen the work item where everything is landed on the same page. And then we've seen board, which is more like a Kanban board representation. I can drag and drop from one state to another state. I can assign those tasks to team member. I can put the efforts. I can change the path, which area path it should be, and so on. In the backlog, backlog is another way to manage those items. For an example, currently we are in the sprint 2. Okay, so while reviewing with the team, I see this product, let's say this one, this cannot be part of my sprint 2. Okay, this is going to take longer, or it's still pending for something. So I can simply do a drag and drop from sprint 2 to sprint 3. That will be moved to sprint 3 now. Similarly, let's say I want this to be part of, let's say sprint 4 or maybe 5. I can drag and drop here, and you see the counts updating at real time. Easy to manage, right? Okay. There's one more thing I want like to show in the sprint planning. That is team capacity. So now, what is team capacity? So in a typical project, there are different persona works on your project, like solution architects, developers, testers, and deployment managers. So let me try to set up 3 resources for my project. Okay, where I want Deepak as a developer, and his capacity is, let's say, 7 hours each day, excluding 1 hour of lunch. Rachit is a solution architect. He's in designing a solution, as he's might be working on multiple projects. I want his 3 hours on this project each day. Umesh is our deployment manager. I need his 4 hours, or maybe let's say 2 hours in a day for deployment. I can also define more activities for one user. So if you see Umesh here, he's also responsible to prepare the release notes, for an example. Okay, so I need his 1 hour on the documentation. Similarly, I can define something like add another activity for Deepak, and let's say I'll say testing, and Deepak will spend, I'll mark it 6 and I'll put it 1. Okay, so that's how I design my capacity. And you can add all user and add new users who are part of this team, and I'll save. Now let's see how this will help me to design my to plan my work ahead. If I'll go back to the sprint planning, and here, as I said, you can filter on the different way. If you go to the planning, it will show you the sprint. If you go to the work details, it will show you the different type of work based on the work item. Now, so my project have 3 resources: Deepak, Rachit, and Umesh. And Deepak's availability for sprint 2 is 91 hours, but he's allocated work of 26 hours. Similarly, Rachit is occupied for 40 hours out of 42 hours. Now, let's say I assigned, I created one more task for Rachit. Okay, and I assigned this to Rachit, and I estimated the work, let's say 28 hours. Okay, so as soon as I assigned this 20 hours, you say things start turning red. Why they are red now? because the task here is in the design phase, right? And in this sprint 2, I have only 42 hours of resources, which is nothing but Rajit's time here. So that's where it's showing me this is in red. Your design work of this sprint is in red. You need to work out this. Now, how a project manager can use this in a two way, either maybe add another user. So let's say I'll add Umesh as well for designing. OK, I'll say Umesh is also working in design and he will spend remaining 5 hours. So Umesh, I'm not giving you time for lunch here, but let's say entire 8 hours of Umesh is consumed here. If now I'll go back to the task board, you see my design is red, design is in green, but still this is in red. Why in red? Because this work item is still assigned to Rachit, which is out of his capacity here. So probably what I can do is here, let's say I'll say Umesh, Rachit will spend 14 hours, and while assign another task, test sol 1, and I'll assign this to Umesh, and I'll say remaining 40 hours of work will be done here. I mean, if you see, this is updating at real time. So that's bit of activities can be done here and very useful to utilize those capacities, sprint planning, and make your project more effective by using those small but useful tools. OK, now the last part within the board are queries. Queries, as name says, you can create new queries here. Something, it's very simple, very easy to understand. So those fields are nothing but you seen on a work item. I'll quickly show you again for your reference. If you go to a work item, and let's open this work item, you will see there are a lot of fields available: state, assigned to, tags, region, and so on. So in the query, what I'll do is I can simply define, let's create a query which should show me all active tasks. So work item type is, I'll say it should be a task, and state is active, and I'll run this query. OK, there was maybe not any item. Maybe let's delete this and run this query. So this shows me all the items which are type of task. Why it was not showing me with active? Because the state is to do. It's still not, it's kind of yet to start activities. Those are not active while we have in progress. But if let's say I'll add state as in progress, and if I'll run this query, it will show me all in progress, and I can save these queries to be available. Now here, things to note where you want to save it. So there are two types of queries. Queries which are just for your user, which is logged in, or queries which you want to share across the project or across the team members. So normally I would prefer to, if you are spending some time to create some queries, it's better to store at share location so everyone can share it. And I'll also tell you how this shared queries helps. So that's how we create queries. Now we'll time check. OK, quickly let's see how dashboards can be designed here. So dashboard is also an important part where project managers can visualize the entire health of a project. You can add more widgets here. Let's see. Let me try to create a new dashboard. OK, I'll say dashboards. I'll add some description, and I want this to be automatically refreshed in every 5 minutes. And I want this as a Teams dashboard. So when I create this, it will be open in editor here, and I can assign different widgets here. I want to see all items which are assigned to me, or maybe burn out, burn in, and I can see the query tiles here: sprint burned out, burn down, all of them I can use. So let's click on done editing. So now if you remember, we make a query shared one. Now that's here we are going to use it. So here you will only see shared queries, not your personal queries. You may ask why only shared? Because this dashboard is available for entire team, not just to you. That's where you can only access your shared queries. Okay, that was on dashboards. Wiki, a quick two lines about the wiki. Wiki is also where you can define, kind of Wikipedia for your project in very simple language. You can define different documents and maybe training manuals, something like that. And you can attach those wikis to work items, so user can always refer back and forth. Okay, the last part of the first demo is code repository. Normally, I would personally recommend to use at least 2 branches for your repositories, one for man branch and one for dev branch. Dev branch, as name says, where all of your developers are going to link their development box, and man where from where you're going to create packages. Creating a new repositories are very easy. You go here, you create new repositories, you decide which type of repositories you are looking at, Git or TFVS. And once it's created, it will start appearing here, and you will start creating new folders. So first it comes as a folders. When you define folders properly, you can convert them into branch. So it's not here maybe. Okay, it's already set up. I don't want to touch it further. Okay, that's where you define your repositories and different folders. And in the repository, you can see the history of all change commits here. And each one will give you further details. Okay, what all objects were changed in here and what were the differences. So if you click on this one, this will tell you, okay, this part are changed in this specific check-in. So this tool is very useful for solution architects or release managers if they want to drill further for any suspicious check-in, or they want to know more details while preparing their release candidate documents. Okay, we also talked about repository policies. So let's see what are they. So if I'll go here, I'll click on manage repositories. So if you click on that, that will come to project setting repositories here. And as we have just one repository, I'll click on this and I'll set the policies here. Okay, so basically you can create multiple policies here and you can mark them active as and when you need it. So here are the areas where you can mandatory couple of things. So what I want is whenever a developer is going to check in their code, there should be minimum one reviewer reviewed his or her code. This can also be done using Azure repositories. When you are on a Visual Studio and you start checking in, there are options, send this for review. So by that, it won't go for, it will not checked in into repositories, but it will be sell your changes and will go to the reviewer, which you define in your request. I also want a user developer to add a work item before they check in. And I can also put a comment resolution. They need to add a comment and so on. So those policies are also can be defined here. So that's the end of this demo team. Now I will hand it over to Rachit. So Rachit will walk you through the rest of the session. Thanks, team.
Thank you, Deepak. Really appreciate the depth you have gone into to show the details. I'll quickly share my screen and you can let me know once it's visible. Just a minute. Guys, I can see questions, so please hold on for another 15-20 minutes, and then we will open up for Q&A and we will discuss them. In the meantime, Deepak, if you want to respond to some of the questions in the chat window, feel free to do that. All right, let's continue with the journey. So thanks, Deepak, for setting up the stage so far. Is my screen visible? Can you see Azure DevOps repos? Perfect. Okay. So as we have seen how we can use boards, work items, dashboards to manage day-to-day project activities, I will go a little bit technical now, and where we will talk about how we can use repositories and what are different ways of configuring them. And we'll talk about pipelines and release pipelines and a bit of an automation capabilities which exist in Azure DevOps. So first of all, repositories, as Deepak mentioned, repository is a place where you store your code. Now, in reference to Dynamics 365 FNO, we talk about custom X++ code, which resides in our custom model, or we can also have binaries which are shipped by our ISVs. Now, when we talk about code, code is actually, we can say it doesn't exist unless it is committed into source control. With finance and operations platform, version control is mandatory. It was optional when we used to work in AX version 3.0 or 4.0, but now it is mandatory. So version control and repositories are two different things. So repository is where you store the code, and version control is how you create those snapshots so that if you have to roll back to a previous version, you can smoothly roll back. And if multiple developers are working on a project, how do you create those versions of a particular sprint or of a particular feature so that your changes in your code are tracked? So basically, what we are trying to say here is that repository is to store your code, and Azure Repos is the Azure DevOps place where you can maintain your code. So basically, there are two types of version controls. One is TFVC, one is Git. So TFVC has been supported for FNO since beginning, and recently Git has been also made available, and Git is supported for finance and operations development. So a very high level view of how TFVC is different to Git and how the workflow looks when developers use Git versus TFVC. So the basic difference is TFVC is a centralized version control system where Git is a distributed version control system. Now this has a very deep meaning within it, so it's not easy to explain in one line, but take off your X++ developer hat and read about Git from a general perspective. You will understand how Git is different to TFVC. But for FNO development, the way it is different is that when you are using TFVC as your source control system, what you do is in your development machine, you configure the workspace mapping and you create a local copy. You basically get latest. You do a get latest, which creates a local copy. Then when you start modifying the objects, you check them out. And then once you are done, you check it in and it goes back to the server. This is a simple workflow of TFVC. Whereas in Git, what happens is when you have your code stored in Git repository in DevOps, you clone and create a local master branch. Now, once you create a local branch, you again create another local branch for the feature or the work item on which you are working on. And you keep making the changes locally. And you also commit the changes in your local branch. Once you are happy with those changes, you basically push those changes to that new branch in the server. And then in order to merge it into the main branch, you create a pull request. So pull request is the area where you can do your code reviews. You can do a bit more refinement before it gets merged into the master branch. Now, this is a very high level view. We are not going into very details of how to use Git, but we have actually done a session on how to use Git with Dynamics 365 FNO. A full 1 hour detailed session deep dive was done by Devinder Singh in around 5-6 months back. So that recording is available on our YouTube channel. So if you are interested to know more about how to use Git with finance and operations, how to set up your virtual machine, how to do a new branch, how to check it in, watch this video. It will give you complete details of how to use Git with finance and operations. Now, what happens when you create a repository of Git? By the symbol itself, you can tell if the repository is of type Git or TFSC. But what you store in repository, because we know, like in finance and operation, we have models. We have a custom model where we write our custom code. Now, those custom models are stored in your repository. But even within that custom model, you only store the code classes, or basically there is a subfolder within that model. We store that and the model descriptor file. If we are using Git, we also maintain a Git ignore file, which basically tells the Git system which files to ignore when you are checking it in, right? So a bit of a best practice is do not check in standard models in DevOps, because it will eat up a lot of space and it will make your build pipelines very heavy to run, and they're not adding any value because we use artifacts. So that's why, as Deepak mentioned, artifacts are used to maintain that baseline while your code compiles in the DevOps pipelines. So basically, use repos to store your custom X++ code and use it to store your custom ISV binary solutions and probably the license files as well. Only check in your model descriptors and the actual source code folders. Then when you configure your TFVC, you have to configure workspace mapping, map your local folders, map your project folders. And when you do Git, you basically clone the repo, set up your Git variable, which is where you initialize Git by telling what is the name, email address of the person who is with whom you have configured the Git. Map your folders, create symbolic links, update Git ignore file, and check it in. So there are some links which we have shared here, which we can share in chat window. If you want to read more about how to use Git, you can refer to this. A few tips for developers: whenever you are using, doesn't matter TFVC or Git, make small changes and do not commit any sensitive information. Like, do not commit your authentication keys or any sensitive information which you don't want to put into DevOps. Try to use keywords or other ways to maintain those things. Uh, look for merge conflicts before you check in, because you don't want to override other developers' changes. So if the same object has been checked in or modified by multiple developers, when you will push to the main remote server, you can merge the conflicts. Also verify your code before you push it to repository. Use meaningful commit messages, because the commit messages goes to your change set, and that will help you to understand after a period of time why you wrote that code. Link your commits to the work items. As Deepak mentioned, your work items can have link to your code repository. So each change set can be linked to its parent work item, so that you can always look what development was done for which requirement. And always follow your team's agreed conventions, like be a team player, because each team is different. Everyone has a different way of working. So please follow your team's conventions. So this was a bit about repositories. Now I will talk a little bit about pipeline. Before I jump into demo, I want to take 5 minutes just to explain this concept clearly, because pipelines is like, it's a very repeated word in DevOps platform, and people do get confused when we talk about pipelines or a release pipeline or a build pipeline, because pipeline is everywhere. So basically, what is a pipeline? Azure pipelines, let's say, is basically think of it as a black box. What it does is you give an input, it gives you an output. Now, what is the input for a build pipeline? The input for a build pipeline is your custom X++ code, your ISV packages, license files. This goes into a pipeline. Now, pipeline is a sequence of activities or tasks or processes which happen on that input. And what it creates is called a deployable package. So deployable package is a zip file, which is your unit of deployment in finance and operations. So if you have to create a deployable package, create it through a Azure build pipeline. Do not create it from a Visual Studio directly. There is capability, but do not use that, because you will get into issues, because there can be things which are locally on your system, which are not in other developers' machine, and you create a package, you deploy, it fails. So always check in your code, attach a build pipeline to your repository. It will bring in your latest committed code, it will run, and it will create a deployable package. So this is a simple concept of your build pipeline. Now, when we talk about build pipelines can be configured in different ways. Now, build pipeline itself has like few different flavors you can think of. So if you are using a cloud hosted tier 1 Dynamics 365 build machine, then it comes with its own build agent, and the pipeline is deployed using that build agent. Another way to run these pipelines is using Microsoft hosted agents. So what is an agent? Agent is basically, think of it as a something which runs your pipeline. You need an agent to give that boost, to give that energy to your pipeline to run. So you can either use a Microsoft hosted agent to run your pipeline, or you deploy a tier 1 machine which has its own agent, which is a part of compute VM, which gives that energy to your pipeline to run. So pipelines can either be Microsoft hosted Azure pipelines, or they could be your FNO build machine, which is hosted as a tier 1 environment. Now this FNO tier 1 machine is deployed in customer subscription, so it incurs a cost, but it has some advantages over hosted agents. That is where you can do things like database synchronization. You can test your SSRS report deployments. You can run your X++ unit tests. So depending on your project size, you can make an informed decision whether you want to go for an Azure hosted agent or you want to deploy your own agent. This is about agent, right, which gives that power to run. Now, the second thing is what happens inside the pipeline. So in a pipeline is a sequence of activities which converts your code into a package. Now, these sequence of activities are basically published by Microsoft as a baseline on GitHub. So there are CI/CD pipeline samples, which works with Git as well as with your TFSC. So when you are using Git as your source control, you used YAML pipelines. If you are using TFSC, you use classic pipelines. So both the templates of both the pipelines is published by Microsoft. This is a link I'll show you in a minute, which you can use actually to jumpstart, and it gives you a YAML script. You modify it with your repository paths, and it can start working for you. So this is what goes inside the pipeline. This is what drives your pipeline. But there are some prerequisites. So if you have to run a pipeline for FNO project, you need to install a tool, which is Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation Tool extension in DevOps. So Deepak showed us in the project settings, you have extensions. That's where your environment administrator has to go from app source, install this tool. And there are very good articles from Microsoft on how to use these Azure hosted build pipelines for automation. So do read that. We'll share the link on that. So this is the concept of build pipeline. We still have to go to release pipeline. We are still talking about build pipeline, right? Now, what is a release pipeline? Build pipeline has given you a deployable package, right? Now this goes as an input to your release pipeline. Release pipeline will take it forward and upload it in LCS, deploy it to your non-prod tier 2 environments. So in a typical project, you have dev, test, QA, UAT, pre-prod, then it's prod. So there are different environments with different purposes. And in order to move your package from one environment to another, you can use release pipelines. You can also do it manually. You can go to LCS, upload a package, open the environment details, apply the package. That's also fine. But if you want to have some automation in the mix, then you can use release pipelines to move this deployable package to further environments. How this release pipeline looks is something like this. So we have just curated this flowchart here just to give you a view of how this looks. So what happens is when your build pipeline ends, it kickstarts your release pipeline. And in your release pipeline, you can configure the different tasks. Your first task for FNO is to upload that artifact into LCS. Once it goes to LCS, you deploy it to test environment. Once it passes test, you can go to UAT and pre-prod. And this sequence can be configured. You can change it the way you want to deploy it. You can have all going in parallel at the same time. You can stage gate them. You can have approval mechanisms. So if you want someone to approve the build, you can configure those settings that you need an approval to move that package to that environment. So I have just summarized few best practices when you are configuring release pipeline. One very important thing is you need to configure a release connection in DevOps, which I'll just show. And you also, in order for that release connection, so because this release connection is creating a connection between DevOps and LCS. So for DevOps to authenticate itself and upload the package and deploy it, it needs this release connection to be configured. And for this release connection, you have to configure a app registration in your Azure portal. And you also have to use a dedicated on Microsoft account to configure the release connection. There is a very nice article written by our MVP, our beloved MVP, Adria, and here is the link, and you can read that. So I'll quickly jump into demo mode now and show you a few things. So this is the repository structure where we have configured Git with finance and operation. And here you can see in the metadata folder, in the metadata, we have only checked in one custom model, which actually just has one class because we just want to have something for the demo. And we have a main branch. We can see all the history of the branch. If we go to history, so we were just playing around and we were checking out, checking in, creating a release branch, doing a pull request. All those things can be done here. Commits is basically similar to change sets. So if you use TFSC, you have change sets. In Git, you have commit. So every commit has a unique GUID, and you can link this unique GUID to your work items. Pull requests are when you want to merge your branch to your main branch. And that's where you can basically raise a pull request to your technical architect. He can review the code, give you some feedback, you can refine it, and you can merge it to the main. So let's go to pipeline. What happens is, I'll just show you quick settings. In the project settings, here you will see your parallel jobs. Under parallel jobs, you will see that by default, companies get a free Microsoft hosted one agent. This agent, you get up to 1800 minutes per month, which is free. So if you are running a build for up to 1800 minutes, you can use this free tier. If you want to run multiple builds in parallel using Microsoft hosted agents, then you need to buy more agents. Then there is a service connection. This is where you create a service connection to talk to LCS. This helps your DevOps to talk to LCS. When you go to this service connection, here you have to give this URL. This is a generic LCS API endpoint, and you use a dedicated user account. So the best practice here is use on Microsoft account, which is not a user account, use like a service account and a password. It is still not like a like if you talk to to architects, there are different ways to authenticate, but it still uses a username and password. So it's recommended to use an on Microsoft account, non-user account, and it also uses a client ID which needs to be configured in your Azure portal. So this release connection helps you to talk to LCS. I'll just show one more thing before I jump into the pipeline details. In your organization settings, here you will see these extensions. So this extension needs to be installed, which is your Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations tools to configure the pipeline. And after that, what you need to also have is your artifacts. Now, what is an artifact? Artifact is basically, again, a type of repository area, but it's not code, but these are different type of things. So you call it artifact. For finance and operation, you have to basically store these NuGet packages. So Microsoft publishes NuGet packages for different versions, and they all are available in LCS asset library. So you can download from LCS, and using NuGet command from your development machine, you can push these artifacts to DevOps. Now, what happens when you push these artifacts to DevOps? Each of this artifact has a version number. When you configure the pipeline, you tell the pipeline a path of your repository where you have your basically packages.config and NuGet.config. So this file will tell you which version of the NuGet artifact to use when it is running that build pipeline. Okay. So this is important. So whenever you update your NuGet, if you are doing a service update consumption, you have to update your packages, and NuGet.configs tell you which NuGet artifact to use. So again, this information is all available on blogs and Microsoft Docs. So if you are setting it up, go through that very, it's a smooth operation experience to set it up. So let's come back to pipelines. So here you'll see pipeline, release pipeline. So a lot of pipelines in this area. So pipeline is that top level classification. These are all the pipelines. Then under that you see pipeline. Now this we have configured a pipeline. You can have one pipeline for each branch. For example, you can have one pipeline for your dev test. You can have one pipeline for your main. So you can configure that. What you do is you go to that pipeline. Let me go back. Just added the pipeline and I'll show you how it looks. Sorry, we are running a bit over time, but we'll try to just cover the concept. So this is a YAML pipeline. It basically uses, this script is available on GitHub by Microsoft. Here you just have to update your solution paths. And you see these tasks which are coming here. This is coming from those extensions. Now what happens in your pipeline, you can configure a continuous integration scenario. So for example, if someone checks in something to your code, it automatically kicks in. So just for the sake of demo, I know it's not ideal, but let's say someone from your dev machine has checked in. Demo check-in. So I just check in something. I just committed it for the sake of demo. What it will do is it will kick start my pipeline. So you see this thing, it has been queued now. So my pipeline is executing now. And when my pipeline executes, it basically performs a series of steps. These series of steps are coming from that pipeline task, that YAML script, which is running inside that pipeline. So these are the sequence of tasks which are executed when to convert your X++ code into a deployable package. So this let's keep it running and see if it finishes before while we are having discussions. I'll just show you a successful run basically. So if you look at the path, so it basically goes here. It tells you what changes are committed in this particular build, and then what is the artifact it created when you go to published artifact. Here, if you want to manually download, this is your deployable package. You can manually download it. And then under this here, so you will see the complete summary of what was done, how much time each step took, and if it was successful or not. So this is all about pipeline. You can enhance these scripts to include your custom binary packages, to add your license files, to have a specific build number. So you can modify these baseline templates which are published by Microsoft. Right? Okay, from build pipeline, let's move on to release pipeline. So release pipeline, what it does is, it's, as the name suggests, it's used for releasing. Your code has been built, your package is ready. Now you have to take it to the next environment. So how you do it, basically, this is the area where we talk about continuous deployment. As soon as your build pipeline will finish, it will trigger your release pipeline. So here you set that trigger and you say, okay, your trigger is enabled. So every time your build pipeline finishes, if your release pipeline is linked to it, it gets triggered. And then what you do is you tell it what to do. So let's say upload to LCS. In upload to LCS, we have to create a PowerShell script to install some MSAL PowerShell scripts. But then this task to upload the package to LCS, how this is coming from that extension. So if I have to create a new task, I say, okay, add a new task. And here, if I say Dynamics, you see all these tasks are coming, right? So all these tasks are provided by that extension which we have installed. So let's close it. So in this, what we are doing, we are telling to upload the package with this name. And here you see the LCS connection. This is that LCS connection, which is authenticating this task to talk to LCS. So if I click on manage, it takes me to that task, which I showed that there is this release pipeline, which is configured to talk to your LCS on behalf of DevOps. So it uses this connection. It tell you the LCS project ID, you tell which file to upload, and you tell what descriptions you want to give it. Just for information, this is all sample dummy data. We just curated it for this demo purposes, but this is how it might look in your project. And similarly, when you go to your deploy to test, deploy to UAT, you have those tasks to tell the environment ID and upload it there. We don't have a tier 2 environment at this stage, so we have just created this to give you a simulation, but it looks very similar to this. So this is how a release pipeline looks and work. Now, while this is running, I think we are still running this pipeline. It is still at step 3. So we will let it run. While this is running, I'll just quickly come back to my slide and I'll talk to you about something which is, yeah, this is the end-to-end picture of what's happening here, right? So your custom code reside in repositories. It goes, you check it in. When you commit, it runs a build pipeline. It should be built, apologies. And then once that build pipeline is done, it creates a deployable package. It triggers a release pipeline. Release pipeline deploys it to higher environments. Now, there is also a bit of a nice, I would say, integration with teams which exist for Azure DevOps, repos, boards, and pipelines. So there are Microsoft Teams app which are available to integrate your DevOps frameworks in your teams. So you can actually get these extensions and add them in on your teams. These are available for free. And what happens is once you configure these connectors, you can get notification in Teams to basically, for example, approve your deployment, to see if a bug is raised, to even approve a pull request. So the possibilities are enormous. And this is all baseline versions which Microsoft has released. There are DevOps APIs which you can use to build your own experiences. So we will share these links here, which will help you to you can go and read and try to configure it for yourself. And these type of scenarios will basically help your system administrators to basically approve and do some activities without actually logging into DevOps, without remembering the paths. Maybe you're on the go, you're having a dinner with your family because deployments always happen after hours. So you can just approve a deployment while while on a move. So let's go back and see where our pipeline is. So, okay, so a pipeline is executed. You can see it just executed. It took almost 6 minutes. And that's another benefit of using Azure hosted agents. Pure X++ build, it finishes very fast. If you use a cloud hosted environment, it takes a long time because it goes through the whole process of database synchronization, reports deployment, and a lot of things. Now that this has been done, what it has done is it has kicked my release. So now I have my release pipeline triggered. And now it is asking me to approve that, okay, I have something which is ready for uploading to LCS. Do you want to approve it? Now, what we have done is, let me see if I get the notification. Right. Okay. This is release 19. We haven't got it yet. So I try to configure it. Actually, it is. Release 23.8. Yeah, so I'll just share my screen for a minute. Now this notification, because I've configured that on my Teams, it came here. It says that it is running. I might have to refresh it, but basically it says that this pipeline is running. And yesterday we tried, we were able to basically approve it from here as well. So let's just wait for that approval to come into it. Still has not refreshed maybe, but let's see. Okay, it's not coming at the moment, but what I can do is I can basically approve from here and then say approve, and it basically will start uploading my package to LCS. So yeah, let it run for some time. We'll come back to it once it's there. But just to quickly summarize, this brings us towards the end of the demo. A summary is that Azure DevOps is very important tool for your project implementation. Don't take it for granted. It is an area where every project architect or developer or consultant or tester or project manager, stakeholder, everyone comes to DevOps to look at where your project is, how are you tracking, what you have developed, what you have deployed. So DevOps is a command center of your projects. So use these tips and tricks to improve your experience. And with that, I'll open up Deepak to if you want to pitch in towards any closing remarks. But I just want to say a big thank you for listening to us. And we are open for question and answers now. I'll keep opening that LCS once that's uploaded.
Thank you so much, Rachit. The pipeline was really excited. In my view, I'll just take one more minute, guys, before we jump into the Q&A sessions. in my view, sometimes we developer thinks, okay, pipeline is something rocket science, so we cannot do it, or we shouldn't touch this, something like that. But the way Ruchita explained, it's very clear. The default pipelines are available, and it's just a couple of fields which you need to modify it, maybe change your environment name and so on, token IDs, and that's all you need to do to kickstart the pipelines. It may the one screenshot which Rachit says. Rachit, are we going to share this PPT as well with the team? Sorry, you're on mute.
Yes, we can share it. I think what I'll do is probably email every person who has registered. We'll email it out. That's
Okay.
fine. So this is
Yes,
that link which has all these
yeah.
pipelines. Yeah.
Exactly. So the screen, there was one PPT which actually shows how this end-to-end cycle works. That's very impressive, and that's going to be, you know, if there's any confusion, I think that's that PPT. If we put some more time to read that, I think that will clear. Yes, exactly. So that's going to make any confusion very clear here.
Yeah.
Okay. So shall we open up for questions now?
Let's open up for Q&A, and we can see our release pipeline is working. It's just we'll just keep an eye on it. But yeah, let's kick off with the Q&A, guys, and feel free to unmute if you want to unmute and ask any question. Yeah. Any questions from chat window?
I think Shruti has some question.
Yeah. Yeah, Shruti.
I have a quick question on boards level. If there is some custom field which is newly added and we want to make it as non-editable as soon as a value is entered, is there a way for that?
Not on top of my head, Shruti. So if you are adding a new field, that's again will be treated as just one of the standard field. And in DevOps, I didn't found a way where you can just something look no editable only created. You know, if you are referring that. So currently it's not available.
Okay.
Yeah. So this approval widget came after some time when I manually deployed, but you can see it came up here. I could have also done this from here to approve. Yeah. And we can see our task is progressing well. It is on stage 4. We can look at the logs, and it's basically uploading it to the LCS now. Any more questions?
Yes, team, please feel free to unmute yourself and bring up questions. Any questions? I try to respond many questions, but whatever left, I'll try to spare time and we'll answer them.
So yeah, maybe like we can take questions. Can I integrate RSet in the CI? Yes, there are capabilities to do that. How can I get a demo VM and access to LCS free or trial? That could be a question to Umesh. He is the magician for these things.
Yeah, so I have already posted a YouTube, created a YouTube for this YouTube video for this. So I will just share it across to you.
Thank you, Umesh. Guys, we can see our task is succeeded. What we can do is I can quickly log into our LCS and show you that it's there. In the meantime, any other questions? How can I use RSet to automate the regression testing? Yes, RSet is actually used for regression testing. So that's where test suites come into picture, where you record a task and you configure it, sync it from FNO to BPM to LCS to task suites. So there is a bit of a cycle there. But yes, RSet is used for doing regression testing. I think that calls for a dedicated session. Let me just show the asset library. Any other questions, Umesh, you want to read out while I just open the asset library to see if the package is there?
Sure, I think the questions is about the RSet. I think you're already, we are seeing it.
Right. Yeah. So we can see the release 19 build, which just got uploaded to LCS. All right, I'll stop sharing. Let's focus on Q&A. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Feel free to unmute. We'll check the chat window in the meantime. Pre-prod in this release tier 2 or 1. Pre-prod is tier 2 mostly. For tier 1, you don't need, like tier 1, you just map your branch and get latest. Release pipeline. Can we create a pipeline to start WM and restore databases? 100% you can do that. That's where you can add more automation to your projects. There are blogs and videos on it. I'm not sure, Deepak, if you want to share something on this question.
Not specific to this one. There was a point noted. I missed it. So nowadays, integration is very hot topic in most of the projects, right? You might also face every project needs some kind of integrations. So the pipelines which we shown in this demo, right? Those you can also create pipelines and release pipelines to actually deploy your logic apps from one resource group to another resource groups. And that's so much configurable because when we create a logic app in a specific Azure resource group, okay, and that is, let's say, linked to my development environment, dev environment on legacy system, then environment on FNO side. So you can literally configure your pipelines to do everything automatically. You just run that pipeline that will deploy all set of logic apps from one resource group to another resource group, and it will automatically change the endpoints.
Thank you, Deepak. There is a question on Adria's blog post, so I'm just pasting that in the chat window.
I think I already did
Already
Already
did
did?
that.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect, perfect. Okay, yeah. Right.
So
There
there's
a
a
way to
question from
yeah.
Sohib, how we can update NuGet package automatically?
Yeah, again, this is where you might need to invest a bit into your PowerShell scripts. You can create, so pipelines are very powerful. You can have pipelines, tasks which are of different type of nature. You can write your own PowerShell script to basically download these feeds and upload it. It's a bit of a automation you can do, but I think PowerShell can be helpful there.
Yep.
Is it possible to create security role as read-only admin? Yes, Rahali, there are blog posts from Alex Meyer, who is another MVP. He has done great work in security area. He has a blog post on this, so feel free to Google it. Just Google Alex Meyer. He is very famous MVP. Alex Meyer, read-only security role. You'll find that link. Yeah, guys, feel free to unmute and ask any questions. Otherwise, yeah, I know we are a bit over time or a bit over time already, 90 minutes. But yeah, I really appreciate everybody's presence here.
Yeah. So everyone is looking for trial version of the LCS, just to make sure that after my video was viral, I think Microsoft has stopped giving free licenses, but definitely you can do some tricks. Okay. So you can ask your friend to give some access, probably those who are having a pre-sales environment, definitely they can share it and then you can practice it across. Or in case you require any help, just reach out to me. I will try to see if I can share it something unofficially. So that it can give you for great learning. Okay, definitely when it comes to the LCS environment, it is LCS access. Generally, it is a very costly one, and Microsoft does not want to expose LCS. And more towards, if you understand the one admin, one platform. So Microsoft will actually club in everything to Power Platform. So you will hear from them soon. So LCS is anyway, it will go off. Is build machine used as an agent in the LCS for creating project? Yes, I guess. Yes, it has been used. So generally we create a build machine, and from build machine we create a like a release pipeline. Obviously, it has to be set on the development environment, and we check in, and after checking the code, we get it to the build environment, and then once the build is ready, you can actually get it automatic posted with the help of the asset library to the LCS project. Database backup and restore automation is possible in both T1 and T2. This I have not tried actually, but I have done manually.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rajat, any
Yeah,
views
there are
on that?
database backup LCA APIs. So yes, that is possible.
Okay.
I'll share the link of database LCS APIs And yeah, and as a, there are blog posts already on these topics. People have done this end-to-end automation, shared their experience. I'll share the link here. Yes, via pipeline, it is possible.
Yeah.
It needs some effort though. It's not
Yeah,
walk in the
definitely.
garden.
Yeah, definitely. It is not
It's not
straightforward.
something.
It is.
Yeah.
It is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is possible from tier 2.
Possible on tier 1 also. I think there is a community tool. So community has become very powerful now. There are community tools. If you search D365fo.tools, there is a library of PowerShell scripts which is created by Dynamics community experts, and they have contributed to it. So I think Moitz is the guy who leads it on Twitter. If you follow him, just search Twitter hashtag D365fo.tools. You get access to complete suite of PowerShell scripts. But again, it's not just copy paste and it starts working. You need to
Yes.
understand before you start using it. Yeah.
Definitely. It is not
Yeah.
easy. You have to see where it will be fit and how to use it. Definitely it is. Automation is possible, definitely.
And especially when
so-
people are more, used to, okay, if I'll type S, select will automatically come.
I think we can start using this ChatGPT. Probably
Yeah.
we'll get those
ChatGPT
answers.
still needs to learn FML.
Yes.
They are still far. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Deepak. Today's session on the end, Rachit. I really appreciate your time this time. And as Rachit is joining from Sydney, and even me, we are already in midnight, and Deepak is probably waiting for lunch, so he has to. And so there is a good news that the next session will be on a Power Platform and dual write for finance and operation perspective. Hope you can see my screen. So you can definitely join us, and John Pearson will be joining in from UK. He's UK, right? Or Ukraine?
Yes. No,
Okay.
he is in UK or in States. I think he's in States.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we will see you tomorrow. We will see you next, probably September 21st.
Yeah, in 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks from now. And thank you very much for the wonderful audience. I think we crossed a lot of, and thank you for being with us. We crossed around 110 users today. Thank you very much. And I wish you a great upcoming weekend. So today is the last month. So last month of the day.
No, last day of the month.
Yeah, last day of the month. Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right. Thanks,
Yeah, okay.
everyone. Appreciate
Thanks,
your
everyone.
joining us. Thanks a lot, Deepak, and welcome to this user group. We are looking
Thanks.
forward to hosting many more sessions like this. Please
Indeed.
support us, guys. We need your support. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, team. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Now I will stop the recording.